Good evening, good evening. Just lighting some Palo Santo, clearing it up. Good evening, good evening. Let's do this
Oh,
again. I think you got to turn it the other way.
let me pop it down.
Give me 1 minute. Take your time.
Yeah, I'm turning it on the side. And there we go. 1 minute. Ugh. How's that? Better? Can you hear me now?
Much better. I can hear you. And
I didn't realize we were going to be that direction.
What's that?
I didn't realize we were going to be that direction.
Yeah, I don't think it allows you to do horizontal. I think it has to be vertical. But you look a little blurry. Let's
A little blurry.
see. Yeah. Can everyone see? Can y'all see Jamie well, or is it just me?
Let me do this. What if I do, um, give me 1 second. Because that's still got right. It might be my camera.
Yeah.
Is it still blurry?
Yeah. They said it looks blurry.
Shoot. Okay. I don't know.
You know, maybe go out and then request to join again, and maybe that might be.
It might be my camera because it's scratched. I didn't realize. That's one thing I think.
The front. I don't know if that's it. It looks fine the other way.
I'm gonna do it the other way. I'm gonna do it this way.
Okay.
Hold on. I don't want to.
You should
How is that?
look. Well, now we can see you. So you're showing us all your business.
I know. I'm in the guest room. Sorry.
It's okay.
And I'm all up close, nostrils and stuff. Sorry.
It's all right.
How is that?
Better. And now you're gonna
Because I
sit
switched
down.
the phone
Okay.
around.
Yep. It's fine.
I just
Is that better for you
can't
guys?
see you.
Okay. Oh, that's okay.
I can't see you, but that's
All
okay.
right. Is that good for everybody else? Can I get like a thumbs up if that works for y'all? It must, because no one's saying anything. Yes, okay. Thank you, Tampa Therapy Training. So I don't know if you saw, but the bowl I used to open up is the one that I just forgot you said you can't see. The one that we got running through the streets of Nepal.
I heard it. I heard it, and I did see it, actually. Love it. Love it, love
Thank you,
it.
Diane. Yeah, so before we get into the conversation, just kind of share with everyone a little bit about you. Like, who are you?
Who am I? Oh, there's a lot of things that could describe me, but I think the ones that resonate the most are, you know, mom, wife, daughter, soul searcher, healer, helper, friend.
Yeah.
That's me.
Absolutely.
I am a lot of things. I wear a lot of hats many days.
Definitely traveler. You just get back into town.
I'm a traveler. Literally just flew in an hour and a half
Yeah.
ago.
So
All good.
yeah. So, and that's how we met, is through
Yes.
traveling. So
Yes, I'm a wanderlust.
yeah. So I have to say, I love our origin story. I love how we met and just how organic it was, you know. So we'll share this with you guys. Jamie, feel free to chime in at any time. But so like in 2016, like I got an email from this local yoga studio and it was about Nepal. And I'm like, I want to go to Nepal. So like I read the information, reached out to the organizer, the coordinator, and it sounded good to me. So I paid the deposit. Did not know anyone that was joining, didn't know anything except, oh, that sounds fun. This sounds like something I need. And how about you? Like, how, because you went to Bella Prana as a regular student, am I correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
So I was a regular student, and I was considering becoming a teacher and getting registered. And so I had contacted the owner of the studio and was asking her, you know, questions about the training and the time frame and the cost and like everything all encompassing. But then I had seen, you know, on their website when I was doing research for that they had this upcoming trip, and I'm like, I've kind of always wanted to go there, you know, and I just had this yearning and this pull. And so I just started asking questions with that, and I said, you know, I'm really torn because I can't do both. You know, I have a family, I have a young son at the time, you know, both are big commitments. Either I take this big trip and I'm gone for, you know, multiple days, or, you know, I do the training and I'm in classes multiple days. And she said, you know, Jamie, I'm never going to do this trip again.
Oh, wow.
So, she said, if you're feeling this big pull and this need to do it, then you need to do it. But it's your decision. You know, training is always going to be here. And I was like, that's a good point. And, you know, waited about 24 hours, let it sit and resonate, and then mentioned it to my husband. And he's like, you do what you want to do. What feels right for you? And I was like, taking a trip. And again, I only knew the owner that was running the program or running the trip, and she had a few impromptu, you know, meetings in her house to go over logistics, and so we could, you know, some of the participants that were local that were attending could meet each other. And I did one of those. I could only make one, and it was at her house. And apparently, I remembered seeing you, but that was when we officially met. But we really didn't talk.
I didn't talk to anybody except like I was so nervous. Like, y'all, I almost backed out of this trip a few times just because of the anxiety of going across the globe with, it was what, 16 of students and then the two coordinators, the two organizers. So it was 18 of us together. 18, so 17 strangers. And I'm like, yes, it was Ronnie. And I only went to Bella Prana. I was going maybe like once every other week because I don't live in South Tampa. I lived in Brandon at the time. So I would just kind of go, you know, infrequently. But yeah, so I almost backed out of that trip a few times. And Ronnie actually was like, listen, you've already paid, you know, this is going to be a great experience, blah, 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 blah. Like, just come. And I did. I went to the same meeting that you went to. Didn't engage much, just kind of like observed everyone like, okay, you know, I'm going to just do it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, and the funny thing too, which I thought was really, really cool. I mean, I don't really know for sure how they fully advertised it, but the fact that there were really only, I want to say 5 or 6 locals. Like there was Arizona, I think someone was from California, someone was like Texas. There were people from all over the U.S. Like we had a very South Florida, North Florida. So there's only a few locals that actually went. And yeah, like you, I had a pretty crazy schedule, so I wasn't going, like, I was going weekly, maybe every other week. Like, I kind of had my own practice at home, so I didn't go as frequent. So I didn't really know anyone from passing much. But no, that it was funny because I realized like that meeting was great. I didn't talk or interact, but I was super pumped. Like, I'm doing this. Like, I have a calling. This is something I have to do. And I was so excited. I was super nervous because, again, I'd never been that far away from home for that long. I have a young child.
And Sterling was just what, barely 2? Didn't he just turn 2 when we, okay, I thought so.
He had just turned 2, and it was also Halloween weekend that we were leaving, and I'm like, this is like a holiday I'm gonna miss. But for whatever reason, again,
yes,
I was like,
because we were there during the election. I forgot about that. How could I forget about that?
I remember a very special moment during the election when we were all together at the bottom of the hotel in Kathmandu, and we were crying, and we had a lot of very open-hearted
conversations,
very touching moments.
We had strangers in the street. We were skipping ahead like 10 days, y'all, but we had strangers in the streets when they knew that we were Americans. Like, they were like giving us hugs, and like, remember that, like the older couple that was like touring like the world. They were from like Australia or something. They're like,
yeah. It's a magical place. In general, it's just a magical place. But I mean, I think there was just something around us, a bubble around us. It was the whole experience, everything from the way the trip was planned and executed, and then just the way we ended up becoming roomies.
Yes.
And then, having our conversations about our families and, our significant others, our children. And it was just like, it was slow but thrown together.
It was magic. It was magic. We had a lot of great times. It's so funny because as we're getting off the plane, and we landed in Kathmandu, didn't we?
We landed in Kathmandu, and you immediately knew, you're like, I'm not in the States anymore.
Yeah, because it
was like being back in the 70s.
Yeah.
It was a 70s airport.
It was beautiful, cool. But definitely dated. It was cool. But they had this huge Buddha, like right when you get off the plane, and you were behind me, and we just took a picture, like right there, getting off, what's it called? The tarmac, whatever it's called. And it reminded me of this vision board that I had created earlier that year. It was of this huge Buddha. I don't even remember where it was in my vision board, but it looked the same. And that just made me think like, oh my gosh, like I manifested this. This is why I'm here, And then shortly thereafter, we had to pick roommates. We just looked at each other like, you want a room? Yeah, we'll be roommates. And it went off from there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like it was, well, I laughed because I remember, we've said in the past about how, we didn't have that college dorm experience where we met strangers for the first time and lived together. So it was kind of like, this was like our weird kind of college moments.
Yeah.
For what, 9-10 days. Like, yeah. It was fun because like we're putting up stuff in our, hotel room and in the bathroom and like putting our bags by our beds and, like sitting out our beads and it was cool. It was cool. It was
experience.
Well, it was funny because I remember we were looking at, you had your candles and you're like, mind if I sit my candle here and I light it? And I was like, I'm totally grooving on that. That's me.
Yeah, because I definitely travel with my candles. I definitely travel. Yeah.
Well, and the funny thing is, I used to travel when I was working and traveling for work. My sister would buy me like these cute little candles to take on my trip so I could light them in my hotel room to make them feel like, comfy and cozy and totally my like Zen style. And so I was like, this is great. This girl's like, I'm feeling it. This is great.
It was like, just practicing yoga like throughout different parts of Nepal. Like, and then it was just such a magical experience. I didn't know that she said that was going to be the only time that she did the specific retreat. I didn't know that. So that's so funny.
It was, because I called her up on the phone. I said, can we talk? I want to go through this. I had just so many reservations, just nervous about getting on the plane and going so far. But then it was also, and I know I've said this in the past in conversations we've had, I had this really weird feeling for many years, and when I say many, like decades, about, in all jokingness, like, oh, I think I'm gonna die at a young age. And like, I'm coming up to this point where like all of a sudden my life is over. Like something's ending. And so it was like approaching that time where like it was just kind of blurry and blank. And so I think that was part of my anxiety of taking this trip. Like, is something bad going to happen? Or why am I having this really weird feeling? Why am I having such bad anxiety? And I think that, this was that next volume of my life.
Yeah.
That was the chapter was ending, and another me was stepping in.
Yeah.
And that was like, that was that point right then and there. And I didn't even realize until after it happened that I was like, oh my goodness.
Yeah, we had a lot of transitions, a lot of shifting happened in those 9 days. Like you said, it was pretty much like the death of your old life, and just coming to accepting that this is the new Jamie. I don't know if you want to share with people like what your career path was before you decided to be a stay-at-home mom, and just how that even felt. Because I have to say, I will say this really quick. You manifested where you are right now, and it's such a beautiful story. So yeah, if you don't mind, just quick, just if you can share like where you were and at that point.
Well, yeah, no, definitely, I don't mind sharing. So worked in the financial industry for 15 years, and very high paced, high stress, a lot of anxiety, traveled a good bit, worked with personality types that were really challenging. I enjoyed it a lot, but it was taxing. And then at a point, I was also traveling, commuting a long distance, and just I'm the personality type where I don't really say no. I just dive in and give it 110%, and work as best as I can. And I'm always super loyal and a hard worker. And it was like one of those, I had every career I've ever had, I really put myself in it. And when I found out, Livingston and I got married, and I took a new job, and then he ended up transitioning into a new position as well with a new company. And then we find out we were pregnant. And so it was one of those, okay, what are we going to do? We talked about it when we first started dating, and then, we got married. We definitely wanted to have kids. We were excited. But with his new job, he was going to be traveling a lot, and it was a lot. It was a big, big career opportunity for him. And I wanted to go back to work after having the baby. I was ready. I was excited. But ultimately, after multiple conversations, Livingston did, kind of convince me, like, you should stay home. I think that's the best place for our family and our dynamic of our family. And I was like, yeah, you're right. We talked through it. And a lot of people I've told in the past, especially new moms, like, and they decide to be a stay-at-home, there's guilt when you go to work. So all those working moms get it. There's guilt when you stay home. There's guilt when you do half and half, and you feel like you're only applying half and half of yourself. But I accepted the fact that that was that time in my life of having a career and working that way was now on, and I had to grieve. I had to grieve it. I had to grieve that past life, if you want to call it or say it. And it was hard, and I think postpartum kicks in a little bit with that too. But it was an amazing experience to be able to acknowledge that and understand it and process it. And I'm grateful for my studying in yoga and my time. I started yoga back in like 2007. So I've been practicing for myself and like my apartment when I was, single. And so I really knew how to just sit back and calm my body, calm my mind, think through things, find clarity. And so that was, one of the beautiful things that yoga has really given to me. And it's been a gift and a blessing because it helped me, move on to that next stage, which was now being a mom and, being a domestic engineer and finding the path that I was supposed to be on and letting it organically happen instead of seeking it out. And, which I think sometimes isn't always the best path. It is a path and it's one chosen for us, but maybe not the right one. So it all kind of has happened and an amazing way that I've been so fortunate and blessed to have, and been able to share my I don't want to say wisdom, but my things that I've learned, and been able to help others on their path.
Yeah, because you're right. I mean, a lot of mothers, I'll say parents, they do
Mm-hmm.
have guilt
Yeah.
if they choose to go back to work, or if they have to go back to work, or even in this case, when we took this trip, fortunately you have a very supportive husband that encouraged you to take this trip, right? But you, even at that, and especially in the very beginning, I remember you shared that with me and a couple of the other, I don't know, travelers that went on this trip. Yeah, attendees. And, just feeling like, you kind of left them on their own, devices or whatever. But eventually, you did start very quickly. I say quickly. It wasn't like the whole trip, but you were able to be present and show up for yourself and realize, I'm doing this for myself. It's okay to invest in myself because this makes me a better mother, makes me a better person, and which is very admirable, to be able to do that shift, and do it so far away from your family.
It was, and it was funny. It was hard even during that moment and being present on that trip, because at one point when we were taking one of the buses somewhere, I think maybe when we were coming back from Namabuda, and I was on the bus with Tina and I forget who else, but I remember breaking down and crying with Tina. And it was so, I think we were doing, like, we were having one of those, how they, like, little projects where it was like, where was a time that, you got really scared, or when was a time that it was one of the, the question moments where we would talk through things, and I was like, the birth of my son.
Yeah.
And so we were kind of processing everything as we were talking through it, and it was like, that gave me the moment to say, I'm here. This is me. This is now. It was cool. They did that trip really well.
Yeah.
I will give them all credit, because
Absolutely.
they really gave us a chance to think about things and what it meant.
Mm-hmm.
It was looking at things in different layers, I felt like, and looking at, the why, the reason, and what next. It was kind of how I took it. That was my takeaway.
Yeah.
And I kind of
but
continue to look at things and how they occur, or why they've happened, and what I'm going to learn from it, and how I'm going to move forward, and what I'm going to do to make it something that I learn from in the future.
Yeah.
Cool. So, it's like that. One of those things from that trip that I really appreciated was like those days where we had no talking.
Yeah, that was my first time doing like actively like days of silence, and now I do it all the time. I freaking love it. I love it. It's like, I'm gonna be in silence tomorrow, y'all. I'll talk to y'all the next day, and just not. But I remember at first it was like, this. First of all, it's such a beautiful place to be in silence, so it wasn't that hard. But it was a challenge at first, because especially me at that time, I was, I would always feel like I had to fill in space. Like if someone wasn't talking, if I wasn't doing something, I had to fill in space. Like I had to add conversation. I felt like I had to talk, even though if what I was saying had no substance. It's just kind of like talking to talk, just to fill in space. I'm saying that again, I'm filling in space. But, and just to kind of be, go ahead.
Yeah. And I find that so funny, because I've never felt that way about you. I've never, like, and maybe just whenever we talk, we're just talking and chatting, and we're like hacking away together. But it's funny too that you say that, because I would never think that about you, and I've never had that feeling. But I always told my husband when we started dating, I was like, if we're in the car, wherever we're at, I'm not talking. I'm not mad, not upset.
Yeah.
I am completely convinced. I just have nothing to say. Nothing worthwhile to talk about. And it was funny, having a day of silence, I'm like, I don't know what to do with myself. I have to talk to someone.
Right.
It was so hard.
Even like all the butterflies and the birds that were around us at that time, I even wanted to talk to them, but I didn't. I'm just kind of like smiling at them, like all silly and stuff, like, hey, birdies, hey, butterflies. But I couldn't say anything to them. But no, I think that having to fill space was childhood behavior that I just kind of picked up into the adult life, just, whatever. Because it's kind of like if you're not talking or if you're not kind of on, it's something wrong with you. And it's not. Like I can be perfectly content, entertaining myself in my own mind, right? Like I don't have to. But I think because that is something that was always not required of me, it wasn't. But someone will ask me if something's wrong, if I am quiet and it's not, that I would just kind of be proactive and making sure that they don't think something's wrong with me by filling in space with words, if that makes sense.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
But can you see that?
What's that?
I said, can you see what I mean in that? Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
So,
it's funny because that day I laughed because I think we all were a little lighter, if that makes sense. By not communicating and respecting each other's peace.
mm-hmm.
I remember, do you remember that giant trampoline thing that day?
Yeah.
Remember? I remember just laying on the trampoline and just staring up at the stars, and Tara's daughter was next to us. Shelby was next to us, and or next to me, I should say. And we were just sitting there. It was funny because I wanted so bad to say something to her because I was just like, I had that awkwardness, like I needed to feel something, but I wanted to share like my feelings, and I couldn't. And it was just like I could see us both like rolling over and looking at each other, and it was just like. But then at the same time, you could just feel and see how everyone just kind of was lighter, the way they walked. There's like a smirk, and I don't know. It was just making a day of just internalizing things and not putting all of your stuff out. It was kind of an amazing experience. And it's one of those, I try to do it every once in a while, especially when the kids aren't around. It's like, I don't need to pick up the phone. I don't need to talk to anyone. I'm just going to put on some music and, do my thing.
Be present. Yeah. I definitely have to say, because I even think that next day, that's when I think it was Becky and we went to go capture the sunrise. I would not have done that.
Yes, I remember that.
Remember that? Yeah. I don't think any other day I didn't do it. I did it the day that I'm pretty sure that was the day we're in silence. I'm pretty sure. Because I know y'all went. Huh?
I remember you sneaking out early one night or one morning, and I was like,
And I think that was the day. But so we have to share this with you guys. Well, that's good, Diane. She said I'm naturally quiet. I have to say now, I'm more comfortable being naturally quiet. But I have to share with them our experience with Dr. Ohm.
Oh my goodness.
So, and were we even looking for jewelry? What were we looking for? So now this is like towards the end of this, like the day before we were leaving. Am I correct? Or was it the day that we left?
Had 3 days. It was the very end of our trip. We were in Kathmandu. And that was such a fun, amazing place to be. I mean, having tea and talking to the locals and stuff like that. It was such an amazing experience. But that particular day was our first day back in, or first or second day back into Kathmandu. And coming in, we had passed some textiles. There was a textile store and like a whole line of like boutiques. So Becky and I decided to take a walk one evening, and we wanted to swing because you guys wanted to look at the textiles. And while walking through the streets, we passed Dr. Ohm in front of his boutique, and he was super sweet and so kind and said hello to us and was talking to his neighbors.
Yes, I remember now. Okay.
Yeah, we were kind of like standing in the street because that's the way the boutiques were set up.
Yes.
And so we were like, oh, he's so nice. And we just kept walking and doing our thing. And then we get to the textile store.
We told him, not to cut you off, but we told him, we said, oh, we'll be back. Is what we said.
Oh, that's fine.
That's what we said. Oh, we'll be back. And then we kept going because we wanted to, I can't remember what it was. Like, it was something specific that I felt like we were looking for, too. But it doesn't matter. Anyway, I could finish because like I'm picturing it now. So this is great.
Oh my gosh. But no, the textile place was closed, so we had to turn back around. It was like at like 5:30 in the evening. So I think everything was closing down. But his shop was still open, and he was still outside, just saying hello and talking to everyone. And we stopped and started talking to him. And we were just sitting there in the streets of Kathmandu, talking on the corner, hanging out with him. And he's like, "Why don't y'all come in?" Like it was starting to get dark, and all the shops were closing. And so we ended up going into his boutique and sitting down, and we just sat there and talked. Yeah. And we were there for 3 hours. We were there that night for 3 hours. Talked to him. He started saying, hey, can I do some readings on you guys? And we were like, yeah, sure. That was great. And so he was asking specific information about us, like, well, give me your name, your birthday. Like there were specific details he was asking about for each of us, and he kind of wrote them down. And then did he do me first or did he do Becky? I don't remember.
I feel like he did Becky first. I feel like,
and
he did Becky first. Yeah.
Did Becky's, and we were like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. We were so excited for him to do each of us and like tell us, whatever things he had to share. But with mine, it was like, it was crazy. I mean, it was definitely a life-changing experience because everything he said was almost like conversations we had all had together in the short time of knowing each other. And we were just like, this is crazy.
How does this man know this? That's what it was. Like, how does he know this?
Right. It was just, I mean, we could look at each other's arms and we were getting goosebumps.
I have goosebumps right now talking about it because it was unbelievable what this man was able.
The things he was sharing about me or about my life or where things that had occurred in my life, things were going to occur. But like halfway through, talking with me specifically, he said, I have a really weird question to ask you. And okay, whatever. Okay, cool. He's like, can I touch your belly? And I'm like, okay. And so I stood up and he touched my belly and he sat and he's like, are you expecting? And I was like, no, not that I'm aware. And he said, okay. He's like, well, you're going to be. And he said, and he sat there and he said, I'm going to give you things that you need to do when you get home. Mm-hmm. And things that he told me were, you needed to feed a black animal and you needed to give someone in need a black article of clothing, which is so funny that it was the color black, and I still don't know what the significance is to that.
Me neither.
Now that I think about it, I'm like, I still don't even know why it had to be black because I don't think I ever asked him. But he gave me that, and then he went and got a handful of garnet stones, jewelry stones, and he said, hold each one of these, and if one of them gives you some kind of sensation, temperature, or just have a feeling, set that one aside, just keep playing with these stones. And I sat there, and sure enough, there was one that just, I had a sensation. It was warmer. It just was almost like a light, like vibration. I said, this is it. And he's like, okay. He's like, I'm going to make you some jewelry. And we all ended up doing something like that with him, and we all ended up having our jewelry made. And I actually don't have my ring on right now because I only wear it for 6 months at a time.
Yeah.
So I don't have my ring, but he made me this beautiful garnet ring that I wear.
You're saying little. That thing is huge.
Well, yeah.
Yours is huge. Mine was small. Yours is huge. Yeah.
He gave me this beautiful garnet ring, and sure enough, I got home and, telling everyone our story and our adventures and the beautiful things that we did. And I ended up, it was so funny, my next door neighbor across the way, their dog Russell is the color black. And I was like, I'm going to get Russell some dog bones. And so in the store, got Russell some dog bones. I'm like, here you go, buddy. You're meeting my first goal. It was great. And they're like super close friends. I love them. And they're like family. So it was like, this is perfect. And then
did you have to not chase, but did you have to drive all around to find somebody in need to give those clothes to?
I didn't know who to give it to. And then literally just down the road from me, where we live, there's like a Panera, and I would always see a man sitting on the bench there. and I didn't know his story, and I didn't know anything about him, and I just started keeping a black men and women's shirt. So I took one of my shirts and I took one of Livingston's shirts, and I put them in a bag, and I kept them in my car. And one day, it was only a few days after being home, I saw him, and I pulled over, and I went and sat next to him on the bench, and I, introduced myself and kind of asked his name, and kind of I didn't want to pry in his business, but just had a conversation with him. And I, when we were done, I said, I have something for you, and it's going to seem very odd. And I kind of gave him a brief background on it, and just said, this is something I really need to give you, and I hope you'll accept it from me, and I hope you do keep it and use it. And I gave him the shirts, and the funny thing is, I've seen him once or twice then, but not like I used to before. I used to see him like all the time when I was on the road. No, it's very rare. I mean, I can't even remember the last time I've seen him now.
Right.
It's been a while.
I mean,
yeah.
that's been what, 7 years now?
7 years. That would be 7 years next month.
And then shortly thereafter, you called us and you told us that you were
expecting.
And Dr. Ohm told you it was going to be a boy too, didn't he?
I think he did.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure he did. Sure he did, because I felt like we talked about that when we met up for lunch and stuff, like when you were like maybe 8 months pregnant or something like that. I feel like when we kind of got together. And my ring, that was a whole thing. Because as soon as I got back, I think I only wore it once, and he told me that I'll know when it's time for me to like wear or something like that, he said. And I ended up losing it in my house somewhere. I still have I haven't seen it. So the rainbow moonstone, I had that encased because he just gave me the stone by itself. And so that I still have. But the sapphire, the star sapphire, I have no idea. It's still in the townhouse somewhere. So I guess when I reach that, which he shared with me, that's when I'll find it. So, I think he would be not surprised, but I think he would be very proud of where we all are right now. Because he definitely shared some wisdom with us about our future self.
I have his business card. Mm-hmm. It is somewhere in my desk or in my jewelry box. I will have to look it up, because I feel like this would be an amazing time to reach out to him, because I know it's festival time in Nepal.
Oh yeah, it is, because it's almost like we're almost 7 years to the date from when we met, which is so funny.
So it's festival time right now. So I'll have to find that in the next day or two, and we'll have to maybe send an email to him and go through, write down some of the things that have happened. Like, first we'll reach out and make sure he gets it before we put it in with the email. But well, and it's funny, because when you told me you lost your ring, I was like, oh my gosh, I had done that too, because I've lost my ring, and it would all of a sudden appear. And it was funny because as a little girl, my grandparents were Catholic, so I was raised Catholic, and then as I got a little older, went into Christian schools. And then as an adult, I laugh because my children went to Jewish schools. And, then I take this trip and I'm looking at, Buddhism, and I learned, and I'm, wanting to learn more about all the different religions and cultures in the world, because I think there's something beautiful about really understanding all the people, and knowing where we all come from and what our thoughts and beliefs are, because I think that's part of what's missing in our society now. But when I lost that ring, I ended up at night like saying like a small prayer to Saint Anthony to help me find it, and I did find it. It magically appeared.
Well, maybe I need to say a prayer to Saint Anthony. Yeah. Because I know it's somewhere in that house, and I've moved, so it's kind of like it should have popped up somewhere, but I just look at it as it's not time yet for me to wear it, because he told me it was a very powerful ring. And
I remember him telling you that it was going to be a come and go kind of thing. It was not. It would be present when it needed to be present.
Yep. So it's been 7 years, almost 7 years. So we'll see. What they say about that.
After this call, you find it in like a week.
Right. And then that'd be nice. I'll be so happy. I'll be very happy for that. So you have your 2 boys. Right?
I have my baby.
You have your 2 boys. And it's so funny, because that was, like we said, such a big conversation during the trip, of
Yeah.
you know, yeah. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, it's crazy to think now. I mean, that was 7 years ago. I now have a 6-year-old and a 9-year-old, and my life is so different. And it's evolved in such a beautiful way, and it's come together in such an amazing way. You know, it's one of those, you know, and I've said this, and you've heard me say this, you know, I, I let, I try to let things happen organically.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I try to pay attention to when opportunities present themselves, whatever it may be. I feel like that is part of your path or my path. And I had mentioned to you too, like one of the things that I do at night, you know, trying to come down to, it's like once the kids are in bed, I've got one that doesn't stop talking, one that doesn't stop moving. So nighttime comes and I'm like, I got to collect myself, calm myself. But I do a little mantra and I say, you know, some blessings, and, you know, I go through my chakras and I, say I am grateful for the abundance of support and love I have. I go through and I say, you know, I will not chase what I want, but
I attract
opportunities to myself, and I will speak, you know, softly, kindly, with my whole self, and, you know, my heart will be kind, open, and forgiving.
Yes.
You know, I go through my chakras and I have a saying for each one, you know, and at the end of it, I say a blessing, and I hold my head, like, let the light of the universe and the world and the people around me, you know, protect me and let me protect them. And
That's beautiful. One of my friends I had on this a couple of weeks ago, Nandi, she was talking about the importance of blessing your aura, your head, and, you know, and so you saying your mantras, your affirmations through the chakras every night, like these are self-care. These are soul care things that literally nourish our soul and our spirit. It replenishes us. And a lot of times, you know, we allow the hustle and bustle of the day, but it's very important to be present and to ground yourself, and always express gratitude. You know, those little things are big steps, and they make a difference, right?
you know, it is crazy. It's just, I lack of a good term, it's just insanely crazy, because when I started doing this for myself and really started taking time in the morning when I woke up, I would get up before anyone was awake, and I would have, you know, something to drink, you know, whether it was coffee or tea. I always chug water in the morning, and, you know, I just kind of say my, you know, morning blessings to myself and, like, get myself set. You know, at times, like, you know, going through a lot, so I would try and do like a few minutes of reiki and just close my eyes and, you know, see the light, let the light come into me, let me put out positivity to the world and to those that I care about, or I knew someone was going through something, you know, I would do that for myself and for them in the morning. And that was part of my routine, and then I go on with my day. And, you know, I've got little people, so it's like getting right into it, like making lunches, making breakfast, getting them changed, getting out the door, doing this, doing that, you know, and get home and you're like, oh, pick up the kids, go to the sports, go to the piano, go to the, you know, coach, And then the end of the night comes and it's like I have to, again, stop, pause, and do my own self-care. And then also, you know, give it gratitude for all that I have and all that I am. Like, I have my health and I have a loving husband and family and home. And it was like doing that, after starting to do that and, like, saying my mantras and saying my gratitudes, and my life did change. And it was great before, but I just felt like, I feel like I am much more awake, and I see things differently, and I feel things differently, and my energy is different, and I see that in other people, and I'm aware. Like, I just, you know, they call it intuition when you're standing, you know, and you can feel someone's energy, you can feel their vibe, and I've always been like that. And, you know, one weird fact that not many people know, but my great grandfather was like a spiritualist. back in like the late 1800s, early 1900s. So like, and I have one of his crystals. It's very old, and it's part of
Stop.
the
Really?
yes.
Wow.
So it was the one thing when he passed, and my mom asked my sister and I to go help clean because we were moving my grandmother in with her, and we were cleaning out their house and kind of going through everything. And that was one of those first things I grabbed. It was so funny because my mom was like, "I kind of wanted that, but you could have it." I was like, "Thank you." And it is actually on my nightstand. I sleep next to it every night. So it's
Is
kind
it
of
a
like
quartz?
it's not. I don't actually know what it is, but it's clear. It is clear. So I'm gonna guess it's quartz.
Okay. That's
I don't know that
awesome.
it's done. I mean, it's super old. I don't know where it actually came from.
Right.
But yeah, doing my self-care and having a routine and making sure I take time for myself has definitely helped me personally, but also helps me help others. Because I feel like when I want to do Reiki or I want to practice yoga or I want to, just find calmness and peace or find, clarity within all the craziness that goes on in our world and our society. And, like that is such a big part of what should be a routine for everyone. And we lose sight of who we are and what our self is until we do that. And I have those days where I'm a hot mess and I'm bawling because my kids are crazy, and I have a very, I'm going through a phase with my 6-year-old. It started about 2 months ago, and he is hard. It's hard, and I'm like, but having time at the end of the day and having time for myself helps me get through it and keeps my sanity. And I'm not gonna lie, I lose my stuff sometimes. Person, but I gotta forgive myself because I'm learning every day. We learn every day until the day we die. And that's one of the things I've started telling people more and more, because when I heard this saying, it really resonated with me. And, when someone passes, a library burns. All their knowledge, their wisdom, life experience, it's no longer. It's only what they've shared with others that can now be shared again. And so it's like trying to make sure that I am the best version so that I can do that for others and do that for my children. And so self-care is a really big deal for me.
Absolutely.
That trip and meeting you and hopefully planning a future trip. Wink, wink.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we've been talking about it, but and then of course, we've had like a 3-year pause in a lot of that. So, but
I think we all got
right, really,
a few years ago.
honestly. But what you're talking about is light work. Being having compassion for others. Being empathetic. Being able to alchemize energy. When and also giving yourself grace, like and giving yourself that same compassion that you would want from others and that you give to others. I mean, that is light work. Being able to feel other people, and just tapping into that intuition. That's what that is. So while it is a little bit after 8, if anyone has any questions for Jamie or myself, please go ahead and feel free to put them in the comments. I'm just going to read up really quick to see if there was anything that I missed. But that looks good. But yeah, if anyone has any questions, feel free to pop it in the comments in the chat. But yeah, I do when I allow myself, especially when I'm journaling and whatnot and identifying different patterns of my life, and I can kind of just go back and I think about the different timeline, points in my life, right, that have connected. And when I look back, I'm like, oh my gosh, so many years ago, or I was there, I'm here now. I remember saying this then, and look where I am, And it's just as simple as I remember saying, I want to go to a place to where they practice Hindu, you know what I mean? And boom, I'm in Nepal. Oh, and just asking I hope whoever I'm rooming with is nice and sweet. Boom, we instantly connect and we're still friends and we still make time and space for each other. Just like wanting to have another child, boom, here goes this guy on the streets of Kathmandu. And literally, what, 10 months later,
Right.
you have your son, you know? So
Yeah.
it's like that saying where it says, like, I'm living in the moment that I prayed for.
Right. Right. Well,
That's,
and it's
yeah.
prayer, or right, you know, your blessings are also your vision board. When you say things out loud, you
Yes.
are putting it out
Yeah.
there. You're saying it because that's what you want and need. Your heart is asking for it. And it's so funny because I've always felt that you attract those that need you, or you need them. And I feel like we didn't need each other, but we did. Like, we
Yeah.
need each other because we are on a similar path, and I think we want the same things, and we want, you know, change in the world. We want change in our lives. We want change for the people we love, and we want to give. We're always giving. That's just who we are.
Yeah.
And you know, I will say a moment. There's so many amazing moments on our trip and on our meeting, but going back to what we first talked about when we first started chatting, one of those moments in life that really stood out and will always stand out is when we were in the hotel at Kathmandu when they were doing the election.
Oh,
These
yes.
strangers from, I mean, because people in the hotel, it wasn't just our group. You know,
Right.
there were the locals that were there working, but then there were, you know, people that were coming from other areas, and like, we're all just sitting there watching these screens, and you know, we're Americans, so we understand what's going on, and then you have, you know, foreigners from other countries, and we're all just sitting there talking and kind of processing everything that has occurred and what our thoughts were and what our feelings were. And it was like that right there, that moment, like, as people, how connected we are.
Mm-hmm.
Because even though they might not know what's going on in our country, maybe they don't know what's going on in our world, or they're, you know, they're only knowing what's going on in their own village, we still are able to come together and have a conversation and talk about feelings, talk about thoughts, talk about positive things that we can do. You know, there's just such a connection.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really not that big of an effort.
Yeah.
It's just sitting down, not casting judgment, listening, communicating,
Yeah.
and giving a little love, a little kindness. It's not that challenging.
Right. No, seriously. And it was, I believe at that point we had been together, what, 7 or 8 days, if even
Yeah.
not even longer than that. Yeah, we had been together for over a week, and everyone was so vulnerable. Even the ones that, you know, we kind of figured out voted, you know,
Yeah.
differently than we
Yeah.
did. One
Right.
woman wasn't, but, you know, the others, once we had the conversation, they understood. And, you know, it's so funny. Years later, the guy said to me, he was like, wow, you knew it. He said, you said this in the hotel. You knew this was going to happen. He said, I had no idea. And I was like, look, you know, there's some things that, you know, the privilege I don't have to not know these things. I don't have that privilege to not know the information. You know what I mean? And he
Right.
understood it afterwards. But what I appreciated at that time was, even though he might not have understood where any of us were coming from, he was
Mm-hmm.
still there was still some compassion there. It wasn't like, you know what I mean? If that's
Yes.
the right word that I'm using, there was still some compassion in there and that vulnerability, and
Yes. Yeah.
and we had space to not agree with each other, but still
Right.
respect each other. And that to me would be what I would love for everyone to do. You might not have to agree, right? You might not even understand, but as long as you love and respect, you can kind of work through most things.
Right. Well, I mean, that it ultimately is, if we as a society could come together and just learn to appreciate the differences
Yeah.
and
Yes.
not try to change, not cast judgment,
Mm-hmm.
just listen and be grateful that there is a difference,
Yeah.
because we can't all
Right.
be same, okay? And we're not all perfect. None of us are perfect. We're all going to have life experiences that make us choose and judge and say and do. But as long as you can sit next to that person and say, okay, let's talk about it. Or even if you don't want to talk about it, just appreciate who they are and say, okay, that's cool. That you're doing you, and you respect me, I respect you. We're still going to help each other. We're still going to listen. We're still going to respect. Like, that is part of what's missing. And it was like in the world, I feel, that's my opinion. Just there's a lot of emptiness and lost souls, and it's like that moment in that hotel was just everything like what you want in the future. Like, we had it briefly for a moment.
We really did.
A really downtime, and it was. I wish so many people could see that and experience that, witness it. Yeah,
we really did. It was a dope experience. So I'm gonna close this because no one has any questions, and we're almost at an hour. But I guess a good takeaway, and you please chime in. But a good takeaway is, give yourself grace just as you would give grace to others. And also, hey, when you have opportunity to travel, do it.
Right.
That's to me how you really learn more about yourself, is through experiences outside of your norm. And any other takeaways you want to add?
Be gentle with yourself.
Yeah.
The process. Trust yourself. And there's the journey is an adventure. It's bumpy, but it's beautiful.
Yeah.
And when you give gratitude and grace, you'll find your way.
That's right.
I mean, we found each other, and we weren't looking for each other, and we were completely different individuals, and we didn't know anything about each other, and here we are now. We have so many shared life moments and experiences, and now we're on this path that we're now on together, and helping other people and helping each other, and that's just beauty in itself. I mean, there's so many takeaways.
Absolutely. Yes. So I'm going to wrap that and just say, find the joy in the journey.
And if anyone wants to see my little guy, he's banging on the door. He's like, I'm going to go grab him. Let him come in. Let me see if I can get it. Remington, you want to come here, baby? Hurry up. Come and say hi really quick. Really quick. We're wrapping up this call. You come say hi. I know you want to say hi. It's okay. Don't touch it. Don't touch it. Come sit. You can say hi. And Miss Christina and a bunch of friends are on. Don't touch it.
Hey, Remy. Hi.
Say hi. Say hi. So this is my little magical baby. Remington Charles. But so thank you for everyone who listens and participated and listened to us chitter chatter and all of our life experiences. Yes, it is. Can you say hi? Wait.
If people are sending you hearts, Remy. Oh. Yeah, he is not with it. He had his game tonight, right?
He was supposed to have baseball practice tonight, but since we just got home from traveling, he was not wanting to go. So we gave him a free pass. We gave him a pass so he could snuggle with Daddy and have a little boys' night.
All right. Well, it's good seeing you.
Yeah, you too.
All right.
You say hi. Say hi.
Thank you.
Yes, you. Well, thank you. Thanks for sharing. No, it's Miss Christina. I know you can't see her because the phone's.
Oh, I forgot. He can't see.
Yeah, I'll flip it around. Here, go peek on the backside, but don't touch it. Peek on the backside. There's Miss Christina. Now I can see you.
I forgot you have it switched the other way.
I think the reason it might be foggy is because my phone, I dropped it and it cracked, and so there's like a slice through it. So I think that's why it's probably coming through foggy.
It started doing it again towards the end of this call. So
did it?
It did. Yeah, I don't know.
Interesting.
But anyway. All right, girl.
All right.
Good night. Thank you so much.
Love you. Sweet dreams to everyone.
Can you see you?
Yes. See you later. Oh, and there it goes.
All right. Good night.
Good night, y'all.
Love
Take care.
Talk to you
Bye.
soon.